You're now listening to a new episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. Gratitude instills humility. Gratitude removes the ego. Gratitude helps empower the best in others around you. Our goal is to guide individuals and companies to practice gratitude so you can live a longer, happier, and more successful life. Get ahead of life with connection and purpose. This is Gratitude Through Hard Times with Schembra.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. It's your host, Schembra, and today I'm very excited for today's guest. We're talking about everything from leadership, business, philanthropy, theater, family, and so much more. We're excited to have you along for an exciting episode. For all our loyal listeners on the podcast, it's good to see you again, friend. If you were here in person in New York City, I'd be cooking you a bowl of pasta sauce around my dinner table. Some of my favorite moments throughout the week are when you email in your thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns of today's episode guests. So keep those flowing. It's good to see you in the inbox. To all our new listeners out there, it's nice to meet you. I don't know how you stumbled upon our little corner of the internet, but we're glad you're here. We're going to invite you to click that subscribe button at the end of the podcast and share this episode with a friend in need. I want you to go back through the podcast episode archives and you'll see our commitment to bringing on hundreds of the world's great leaders to just share their authentic human story. I think you're going to be in store for a really good episode today. So welcome, friend. Today, we have a very new friend, a LinkedIn friend, Eric Stine. I won't go through the full professional resume. That's in the comments below. CEO of Sitecore, a global leader in digital experience management software. He was formerly COO. He was CEO of Alamica. He was COO of Skillsoft. He was CRO of Qualtrics. Guys, these are huge world-leading companies. Beyond that, he's a father. He's a Broadway producer. He's won a lot of great Tony Awards. He's been involved in some world-leading productions that tell good stories that move people to have positive impact, inclusion, community, and belonging. He's a very multifaceted guy. We're going to talk about the human side of him today. If you are in search of a podcast about go-to-market strategy or investor relationships or AI-based growth, tune out. Today, we're talking about the human. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Chris, it's really, really nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hey, thank you for saying yes. You know, I always like to say that I do 49% of the work inviting you. You do 51% of the work leaning in. You moved your schedule. You brought in your team. You created heart space for this conversation, and I thank you for doing that work.
I'm going to point out something that you just said because it really resonated with me literally the moment it came out of your mouth. You said, thank you for saying yes. And my immediate thought was, saying yes has been the defining strategy of my career. I think that there are a lot of people in my position who would tell you that it's the things that they say no to that mean the most. And I think there's probably a certain amount of truth to that. But for me, saying yes has defined the entire arc of my journey to becoming a father and being a father, my journey to becoming a philanthropist and then a producer on Broadway in the West End, and certainly in terms of the twists and turns that my career has taken. I'm a big believer in the power of yes.
I mean, let's dive right into it and do something different, which is not ask our gratitude question first. We'll get to that in a little bit. What is the hardest thing you've said yes to recently?
Oh, wow. What a great question. The hardest thing I've said yes to recently was taking my kids out to dinner last night when they probably should have stayed home and eaten salmon, but taking them out for cheeseburgers just because I wanted to spend the time with them. But from a life, from a productivity, from a things that made me afraid We did a major rebrand of our flagship product this year. We made some very, very bold decisions to package it and deliver it differently than anybody else in our space. It was a really big bet. And when you are offering something that nobody else is, as confident as you might be in that decision, there's a certain amount of fear that comes with it. And there is a lot of bringing people along and exciting them and convincing them why we think this is the right decision to make. It has paid off in numerous ways. It's still paying off, but it was a very, very difficult thing.
What does that elicit in your heart in terms of imposter syndrome, anxiety? You're smirking when I say it with the left side of your mouth, so I know I hit something. But where does that bring you? Like, what age does that bring you back to of like, oh shit, am I the right guy to do this? Is the right way? Will people even follow me if I open the door? Where did that take you?
So it took me to two places. It took me to the Metro North about an hour and a half ago, riding into the city when I had one of those moments of imposter syndrome. Is this what it's supposed to feel like? Am I doing it the right way? And the thing that I always bring myself back to, the thing that grounds me, is the one thing that's always worked for me is instinct and authenticity. And I just feel like in order to lead people effectively, you have to be comfortable being who you are. Because if you are comfortable being who you are, then your people will be comfortable being who they are. And only when you create that space is when you get their best work, because that's when they're operating out of a place of true psychological safety. If they see you being your authentic, real self, whatever that is, they will bring that same self to work. And that is when they do their best work. But it also took me back to 8th grade, feeling like an outsider, being 80 pounds overweight and not really sure of who my people were. And I spent a little bit over 2 years in that space. And it wasn't until my sophomore year in high school when I went out for the school play and got cast in a major role that I'm involved in theater because the theater saved my life. It gave me a place where I could feel comfortable being myself, because when you're a closeted teenager and you have no ability to even find a community that correlates to your known identity, because that is the thing that makes you feel different. And then there's so much else working against you. I was overweight. I wasn't athletic. I wasn't nearly as charming or funny as I am. All of those things come back to you in moments of weakness.
Holy moly, Eric.
Sorry, there was a lot there.
I like where we're going. 8th grade. A lot of stuff going on. You've all been there that are watching. But the core, and I think most important question you asked yourself at that time is, who are my people?
Yeah.
You're smiling when I say that.
Yeah.
You found your people through the world of theater. You also found yourself. You also found your people through the world of business. You also found your people through the world of family. You've got a lot of different people that are your people in this world because you show up through authenticity. What's one of the core overlaps in all the people that you've met that you love to call your people? What's like one of the core things that they all kind of exhibit?
I think the people that I really connect with, they all have a good sense of humor. And I think that what is common about their sense of humor is that they don't take themselves overly seriously. Maybe I'm too comfortable being the butt of a joke because that's how I lived the 8th grade, and I learned how to move past it, and maybe that's a defense mechanism. But I also think it's just as important for your team to see you be able to take a punch and get back up as it is to show up as your authentic self.
That's the power of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And that's the power of
vulnerability builds trust.
Yeah, and that's the power of modeling resilience. I want to zoom out for a sec, back up to gratitude, which our podcast is known for, just so we can zoom back down into the 8th grade and then carry on with some of the topics that we're excited to talk about.
Okay.
We always like to, and y'all that are loyal listeners, you know this question. To all the new listeners, we've been obsessed with asking a very specific question since July 15th, 2015. And we've asked it to tens of thousands of people around the world ever since. It started around the dinner table with a bowl of pasta sauce. And this question has come to us every step of the way. We usually ask it as the first question. So I'm excited to ask it as the middle question, but in a very specific context. Eric, if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or that you have never thought to thank specifically from that 8th grade time, who helped you find your people and find yourself, who would that be?
It would be my dad. So I grew up here in New York. Both my parents worked in the public school system. My mom taught for years. She taught through cancer. She taught through a brain tumor. She got her professional degree and became an assistant principal. She spent 30 years in the public school system. My dad started as a teacher, but very, very quickly became a specialist in child development and childhood guidance, and has a master's in psychology and social work. My dad spent his life working on behalf of kids like my son, who has ADHD and a generalized anxiety disorder and needs a series of services in order to thrive in a school environment. And it has been through his help and support that we have been able to make good decisions and become good advocates for our son. I also get my love of theater from my father. Growing up here in New York, we didn't have a lot of money, but the Theater Development Fund, which is the TKTS booth in Duffy Square. Everybody thinks it's Times Square. It's Duffy Square. It's Father Joe Duffy Square. We would go to Father Duffy Square. We would stand in line, and we saw all the family musicals of the late 70s and early 80s. Sandy Duncan in Peter Pan, Annie. And my folks would play, my mom would make pasta sauce on a Sunday, and you still have to invite me to one of those dinners.
Yeah.
And my dad would play records on his turntable, and as frequently as not, it would be all the great book musicals of the 60s and 70s. And so, a musical theater soundtrack was the soundtrack of my childhood. I've never thanked my dad enough. He probably knew me better, knows me better than anybody on the planet. He just always was a big believer in living authentically. The night we won the Tony Award for The Outsiders was Father's Day 2024, and it just felt so appropriate because he was the reason that all of those choices that led up to that moment happened. It was the first phone call I made. Much like myself, my father's asleep by 9 o'clock at night, but he stayed up after 11 to watch us win, which was not anywhere close to a guarantee. It would be my dad.
What's his name?
Mark.
Mark.
I had dinner with him this week, too.
What's the best way that he likes to receive this type of appreciation?
Well, he doesn't like to receive it at all. He is a big believer in, don't buy me gifts. Parents buy their children gifts, not the other way around. He would be uncomfortable receiving it. And he already knows it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't thank him enough.
I think the quality time that you spend together and the act of service that you provide him by giving a gift out to the world, he sees that.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, cheers to Mark. If you're watching this, thanks for all you do for the world, Mark. Thank you for going there, Eric. To me, there's no other more meaningful moment in life than giving someone the platform to share a story like that. And this moment, the four of us in this room, your dad who gave you the gift of humor, we are living in a moment that will never be repeated. Whatever it took us to get here, whether it's, my girlfriend letting me sleep 10 hours last night so I could get through my cold that much quicker. John coming in a day early to New York City to be with us. You getting on that train with your imposter syndrome. We're celebrating the beauty of humanity right now. And it's something that we talked about earlier in the podcast kickoff conversation was the gift of impermanence. The idea that your involvement in theater has taught you something very important. There's a 1,096 or 1,097, about 1,100 people that sit in your two theaters, each theater, every night, and are the only people in the world getting that same experience. And the show will change the next day. It'll have a new constellation of audience members, one-liner emotions, etc. Tell me about the gift that is to the world and why it's needed so much today.
I'm so glad that you remembered that from our first conversation. It's one of the things that I love about live theater is that it will be gone. Listen, I love convenience as much as the next person, but I miss the days when I used to go to LA on business and I would steal 2 hours to go to Fred Siegel because you could only go to Fred Siegel on Melrose or in Santa Monica. I miss the days when you had to go into that grand building in London to shop Fortnum and Mason and you couldn't get everything shipped to you. That feeling that this can only happen this one time makes you appreciate it more. And so what I love about producing live theater is someday the show will close and the revival will never be the same. And tonight's performance will be different from last night's performance, and tomorrow night's performance will be different as well. Maybe somebody will be out and the role will be played by an understudy. Maybe the audience composition will be a school group and they will experience the humor differently. Maybe it's something just in the timing or the pacing or somebody who slightly is a half step off in the choreography. Each performance is its own unique experience that only those 1,097 people in the Jacobs, 1,098 in the Schoenfeld will ever, ever, ever experience. And that really excites me to create something that only those people will ever know what it's like, and also will have the memory of. You talk about the power of gratitude and the joy that comes from gratitude. We have a regular cadence of company all hands meetings. And so we get 1,600 people together on a regular cadence and give them updates on our strategy, on our performance, on our customers, on our business partners, and on each other. And we took the time yesterday morning to thank the people and the teams that created for us the great moments of 2025. The best part about it was it wasn't like I sat in some ivory tower and made the decisions. It wasn't like our executive leadership team picked who we wanted to recognize. We told the company we were going to do it. We asked them who they thought should be nominated. And so everything came from their peers. We got hundreds of team members nominated and simply looked at the impact people had on each other and on the business and the frequency with which they were nominated. And yesterday we were able to recognize dozens of people across the organization. And the best part was we had a small handful of people who were mentioned so many times that we not only created a financial reward for them, we told them we were going to match that financial reward to a charity of their choice so that they could give a gift to something that mattered to them. I was I had so much joy leading up to that moment. I'm comfortable public speaking, but I get really nervous about it. And it was one of those moments where I wasn't going to be in my head. I was totally relaxed and comfortable doing it because I got to celebrate the people who had commanded the attention of their colleagues. And I got to surprise them with the ability to give the gift of gratitude. So perfect timing for our podcast today.
Eric, part 2 of this podcast will be just talking about the amazing culture building initiatives that y'all do that empower your people to show up and be their best. Remember that their work matters. What you just said, and if you're a leader listening, you don't have to just only reward and incentivize and promote people based on their output and productivity. You can reward and incentivize people based on their contributions to others. The gatherers, the space holders, the question askers, the idea. You're smiling again when I say these things. Tell me about it.
I'm smiling because you're making me think of probably the runner-up to your first question. The runner-up to your first question is the CEO of a company called UKG. Her name is Jennifer Morgan. I worked with and then for Jennifer Morgan. We've known each other more than 25 years. Jennifer ends every conversation with an employee or a team member with the sentence, "Thank you for everything you're doing." And the power of that, I've adopted it. Basically, anything I do as a leader that is effective, I have completely stolen from someone else. If it's ineffective, it's probably de novo. And I've adopted it from her because it is so powerful. And her superpower as a leader is she shines the spotlight on she knows what everybody on her team is great at and then finds ways to put them in a position where they can do the thing that they are great at so they get accomplishment and impact and pride and self-confidence from doing it. It is a tremendous skill as a leader. And what she taught me, what I adopted 10 years ago as a general manager, was whenever you're doing an operating review, always start with the people. You'll never have to read the rest of the deck. If you know how the people are performing, you will know what the rest of the slides say. I adopted that 11 years ago. It has always, always, always proven true.
That's a wonderful last business-oriented question goes directly to that, which is a quote that you said on our kickoff call. AI provides quantitative answers, but lacks instinct and street smarts.
Yes.
How are you now as a leader navigating the balance between, well, y'all's product, uses technology to build digital experiences at scale. And now you have technology within your company that is, right, reading the quantitative data of your people. How do you still keep the non-data based human instinct, intuition, street smarts, nonverbal communication? Like, how do you keep that glue? How do you keep looking at that as well as the quantitative data?
I think that's part of the reason that I love what I'm doing. I think it's part of the reason why AI will be so disruptive for marketing and the marketer. And I think that's why there's so much opportunity right now. In order for AI to be effective, it doesn't just need data, it needs clean data. Most of that is created by systems of record that form the infrastructure of just about any corporation on the planet. ERP and financial systems, supply chain systems, CRM systems, data related to revenue, to customers, to products. And AI is a superior calculation engine that can give you insights into what is hiding into that data and allow you to make choices based on that data. Systems of engagement require an instinct for humanity. Systems of engagement use that data to make choices about how human beings are going to engage with each other. You cannot deliver AI into the marketing stack without keeping a human in the loop for two reasons. One, once a system of record records the data, it's static. The invoice is paid, the corporation is a customer or it's not, the inventory has been shipped. The market's always changing. Marketing is not a linear process the way financial processes or supply chain processes are. Marketing systems have to be dynamic because the market's always changing. Your product portfolio will change. That will change your ideal customer profile. Pricing or macroeconomics will change. Tastes will change in the market over the course of your lifetime. How many brands have you seen that came out of nowhere and all of a sudden were hot? How many hot brands have you seen decline over the years? In order to remain relevant in an ever-changing market, you need to be able to combine that instinct, that street smart, that understanding of how the market might react to a statement, an offer, an experience, and you need to understand who you're trying to engage with it. And so I think it is a tremendously exciting time to bring together the power of humanity and the power of agentic intelligence.
Holy sound clip. You're passionate about what you do.
I love what I do. I love what I do. Don't you love brands? I mean, I get to work with brands that make the products that populated my childhood. I get to work with brands that represent the products that I rely on every day to live or to feed my family or to do my job. I get to work with people who are changing lives through mission critical diagnostics and healthcare, through helping people buy their first home, to helping them get their first job or change careers at the age of 50. It is so exciting that we get to play this role in helping great companies tell their story and to reach and engage and serve the audience that they know is there for them, by giving them the intelligence to understand who their audience is, where they are, and what will engage them and give them an experience that feels magical, that feels like you're the only one to have it, like one of those 1,098 people sitting in the Schoenfeld Theater.
Folks, is that a callback or not? If you've ever seen it. Eric, it's amazing watching your passion. But passion without the ability to also have a sustaining economic engine that fuels that passion goes nowhere. And you figured out how to do life by building economic capital systems and pursuing passion that has a positive impact. And it's all in the same stuff. a lot of different chapters of your life, but it's all linked.
They all connect.
You live the and, not the or.
Which is why I believe in the power of saying yes as opposed to the importance of saying no.
Well, I want to honor your time. I know you've got a lot to get to today, and so I want to start landing this ship. You've talked about instinct. We've talked about intuition. We've talked about the stickiness and serendipity of human connection, the finitude and impermanence that comes from being in the moment with a group of people that will never be replicated again. We've talked about the inconvenience of going and doing something with a family member or a coworker or a colleague that creates a little bit of friction, but ultimately creates a lot of value. You listen to those words that I'm talking about. It's a sticky, messy, wise, slow, friction-oriented, limit-embracing, finitude and permanent way of being, right? How do we do more of that tomorrow? Can you give our people that are listening one thing that they can do to bring that messiness and finitude? They can't produce the Broadway play.
Why not?
True.
5 years ago, I would have said that about me.
Yeah. But what's something you can give our people hope to say, do this tomorrow to bring all that feeling into it?
A couple of things. The first is the lesson that I keep learning over and over again, the lesson that fueled yesterday's all hands call. Culture comes from community. You can't build culture. Culture comes from the bottom up. You have to allow other people to build the culture, and you have to help steer them. That comes from values, which is the second part. Whatever you do, I promise you, you work for someone. I remember saying this to one of my co-producers on one of the shows that I worked on. And she was like visibly reacting to it because her whole journey had been about not working for anyone. I said, but you do work for someone. You work for your investors. You work for the general partners who are making some of the business decisions about the show. You work with people who have to jointly make decisions. One of the values that guides us at our company is none of us has a job until a customer says yes. And so you always have to remember that you live in an ecosystem where you have, I like to use the word an accountability to other people. Not an obligation, because for whatever reason, I experience the word obligation as a negative, and I experience the word accountability as a positive, because to me, that's about taking ownership. So all of us is smarter than one of us. Culture comes from community. 2, none of us has a job until a customer, whatever your definition of a customer, says yes. And the third, and brings us back to where we started. It's always more interesting to say yes. If I didn't say yes, I wouldn't have left being a lawyer in Washington, D.C. and working in tech. If I hadn't said yes to working in tech, I wouldn't have visited every continent on the planet. If I hadn't said yes to if I hadn't said yes to a job that I knew for sure I was going to get fired from, and then 6 months later got fired from it, and that enabled me to have the time to go figure out what producing really meant and how to fit it into the rest of my life, which came from saying yes to working in a philanthropic organization. Just say yes. It's always more interesting. There's so few choices that are actually undoable. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work out, then you can say no. But always say yes first. It's just always the more interesting choice.
Folks, did you write all that down? Community, saying yes, and living a life according to values in service of others. I think that's the core of what you thought you'd find when you joined our podcast here today. Permission to be human, to be authentic, to rip off that ego and facade that you think brings success. And you got a chance to listen to someone who is actually proved success comes from just connecting and slowing down and having friction so that you can speed up and do great work for our world. Eric, if your dad was on the podcast with us here today, what would you say to him?
I would ask him why he wasn't in Florida. I would say thank you. Thank you for giving me permission to be myself before I was able to give myself that permission.
Any last words in closing?
I just want to thank you for having me here today. It was great spending this time with you. Thank you very, very much, Chris.
My pleasure. Folks, we covered a lot of ground today. From a CEO perspective, a father perspective, a person pursuing his passion in the theater perspective, and so many other things, there were a lot of learning lessons. Empower others to have a voice. Tell a great story that moves people. Ask good questions. Say yes to things. Keep showing up. Nothing is undoable. I'm going to put a lot of resources down in the show notes below around ego deflation and creating your core values and the power of authentic recognition programs for your company. All these kind of different things will be in the resources below. To all the new listeners, again, you could have Googled today's guest. You could have Googled me. I don't know what you thought you'd find. But I want you to trust your instinct. You've got a gift inside of you. You've got a superpower of a story that is ready to be shared with the world. Step into it. Make it messy. Host dinner. Invite people into your home. Do the thing. Show up as you want to show up. Wear a hat that says al dente. Do your stuff. The world needs it. And use AI to speed up your progress. Both can be true. Thanks for tuning in. Click the subscribe button. Join us along for the journey and share this episode with a friend in need who just needs a little bit of a meaningful moment of human connection. Let this episode be the gift that you give them to say, I see you, friend. You matter. Tune in next week. It's going to be our joy to keep bringing this podcast to you. I hope y'all are having a phenomenal day on Earth. Remember, folks, it's your world. Go explore. We'll see you next episode. Eric, thanks for coming on.
Chris, thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Have a
Merry
good year.
Christmas.